It's Tiffany Lorraine Galloway, certified high performance coach, with another episode of the Resilient Mother podcast. This month, we are going to tackle the idea of mastering your unique resilience. We've gone through the entire year and we've gone through all the steps of Resilient You. Now we bring it all together with the idea that with everything you've heard, you should have figured out what your own unique resilience is. And now you have a toolkit to go to when you need to step up in your resilience in your life as a mother, for your family, in general. And today I have Andrea with me. She is my guest, and we're going to dive deep in this and glean her wisdom on the subject. Andrea, thank you for being here. Please tell us more about you.
Stephanie. Okay, so I'm Canadian, and I live in the Toronto area. I'm in Ontario, Canada, born, bred, and I've not left. I'm a mom of two. I guess classify them as young adults. My daughter's going to be 27. My son is 31. So I don't know if they're young adults or they're just adults now. Whatever. It just makes me older. So I'm dealing with that, Tiffany. I'm a creative life strategist. It's my new term for life coach because I became a life coach in 2004, and I never really liked the title, but I call myself a creative life strategist, primarily for the woman 50 and over, but that doesn't mean that I don't have clients or haven't worked with a different age demographic. I just have, I'm going to be 62 in October. And if I think back, I was in my early 40s when I became a coach. And if I think about the issues that I and my clients at that same age and even into our early 50s were dealing with, it's a really different set of issues at this stage of the game. So, the woman that I work with, she's really frustrated. She's frustrated. She's lonely. She's having to adjust into a lot of things that she didn't think that this would be where she would find herself at this stage of the game. We plan, right? And if you were anybody who followed personal development and any of the gurus, they always tell you to make your plan, right? Make your 5-year plan, make your 10-year plan. And then there's an expression that I didn't really get when I used to hear it when I was younger about, man plans and God laughs. Because we can plan all we want, but that doesn't really mean that plan is going to be able to be executed. Things look good on paper, right?
So things we can quantify, yes.
Right. So I heard in the dating world, it can look good on paper, and then it's not so good on paper. So I became widowed. I had just turned 40, and I went to bed. My family went to sleep. And then got up the next morning, but my husband didn't. He had passed away in his sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was very unexpected. We were shitty planners because we were younger. I mean, he had just turned 41 and I had just turned 40. Our mindsets were not there for doing, thinking long term. So no life insurance and tens of thousands of dollars in debt and 2 young kids and WTF. And that was really what brought me into the coaching industry. It was just really starting to buzz here in Ontario. And I started to get certified and was working with women. But, I raised my hand many years after to want to bring my business online, but I didn't know what that meant. Now you want to talk about resiliency? Playing in this online landscape, right? You better be a resilient individual or you're just going to crash and burn. So that's a little bit about me.
So I'm curious with that, how would you define resilience?
Well, that's a really good question. So I think resiliency, I'm not sure if it's a natural born trait in us. I do think that it is role modeled in many ways. And maybe I think, what I do think we're born with a lot of stuff in us. Are we always tapping into what God has given to us? Now, I was born to much older parents, and they came from a very different generation. So if my parents were alive, just as an example, if my mom was alive, she would be 102.
Wow.
Very different generation, right? And so a different time in this world. So they had to learn how to be resilient in many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother, who, when I was born, she was blind. She had been through many different illnesses and things. So, you know, she was a very good role model to see that she never let things keep her down.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're brought up in an environment like that, it can go either way. It can help you or it can crush you, because sometimes you don't feel listen, I don't think I'm the only one that has issues. I call it comparatinitis, and tend to compare ourselves to others, which is very counterproductive for anybody who's wanting to work on being resilient. So I think my life, my upbringing, and another thing that was really taught to me by both my parents, and I think it's key for resiliency, is the perspective in which you take a look at life. Because
Absolutely.
I think, because if you're a person who's always looking at like when the next shoe is going to drop, how can you be resilient?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
because you're expecting it, so you'll see it. Yeah, the good and the bad are always available. Which one do you choose to see?
Right. And listen, life is going to give you good, bad, and ugly.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not going to be a bed of roses all the time. But again, even in the midst of whatever that chaotic situation is and circumstance that you're going through, it's really understanding, I think, a few things. Like, we've been conditioned to believe that we are our thoughts. We've been conditioned to believe we're our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're gonna lead from that in life, man, you may as well just go sit it out now, because life's gonna kick you, and it'll kick you hard, and then you're gonna be free falling.
Well, and I feel like that's where gratitude is a huge tool to master if you want to be resilient, because it counteracts some of those thought patterns that our survival kicks in and wants to give us. And we were meant to have a survival mode to survive, but it's different today. And really, it's the things we're exposing ourselves to, or the world exposes us to now, that is triggering us. And if we don't know our own psychology, if we don't know how our mind works, then we are going to let those emotions ride. And they're not even ones we're choosing. Our own psychology is being used against us. You have to arm yourself with understanding the primal instincts that are naturally going to happen. And then what do you want to do about it? Realizing you can separate yourself from it, and you can build resilience by building tools that can get you back on track for the emotions you want to feel, for the energy you want to have, for the perspective, as you were saying, that you wanted to have. And on perspective, I wanted to ask you, how did motherhood change your perspective and make you more resilient?
Oh, such a good question. Well, motherhood, I think, changed me in many different ways. Who I was, even, it's funny. I was married for 18 years, and we were married for 8 before we had children. And even when I take a look at my marriage, our marriage was very different when it was just the two of us. And then, right? And then we became very different individuals once we were blessed to become parents. Now, when I think about, ultimately, my children, I got a lot of strength from while my husband was alive. But I'm going to tell you something, that after, when he passed, the strength that my children gave and my resiliency, I'm really looking back now, as you and I were talking prior to the recording, hindsight is 2020. And we do a lot. As a mother, my kids were my driving force. They were my motivator. They were the reason at that moment in time when, it's funny the flashbacks we can have. And I'm having that flashback where we're at the oh my God, the cemetery.
Mm.
and they're lowering the casket into the ground. And in all honesty, I think if I didn't have kids, I honestly would have jumped in
Oh,
to
wow.
that grave. Yeah. I mean, just truth be told, not for dramatics or anything like that, but it made me have to stop and think, because I had 2 young kids,
Yep.
that I needed to be able to be okay,
Hmm.
because they really needed me to help them be okay. Now, did I always get it right? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Did I make a lot of mistakes? Most definitely. Most
With
definitely.
that perspective now, though, how do you think they built you into the person you are today? And are you grateful for who that is?
Well, over the years, I had to work on a lot of dispelling the shame and the guilt that I felt for a lot of my life, for
Mm.
different things. And that, shame and guilt is, man, first of all, it's very seducing, and
Mhm.
and it gets us when you don't realize, right?
Yeah.
And that happened to me a lot over the last 21 years since my husband had passed. At times I didn't feel like I could do it, becoming that. I didn't raise my hand to be a single parent. And
Yeah.
here I found myself now this single parent, and now I found myself having to be the only bread earner for
Hmm.
myself and my kids, wanting to give up many, many times. Again, having to do a lot of work on myself, Tiffany. I mean, I'm continuing to do this work. I had to face things, and I had to face that I was self-victimizing myself. Like, shit happened and situations happened, yes. But then it was like this narrative that I kept continuing and
Hmm.
continuing. And when we do that, we're really just being really mean to ourselves.
Hmm.
And we're now victimizing ourselves. Nobody's victimizing us except us. I hope I
Yes.
answered your question.
Oh, yes. It makes me think of like what I believe the beginning of my true resiliency was. It was hitting rock bottom and having to face myself and really be honest with myself for probably the first time in my life. There was no more pretending. There was no putting on a show. There was no more pleasing others. It was just me, myself, and the choices I had made to the point where I was at. And I didn't like where I was at. I didn't like how I was dealing with things. I really expected my life to turn out differently. And I thought I was on the path to those things, but I got derailed. It took one relationship or the inability to attract healthy relationships that really set the course of my life to have to learn to be resilient. I had been kind of raised to be codependent, to be reliant on someone, especially a man figure or just anyone, and not really allowed to develop my own voice, my own thoughts, my own intuition. So I always did what I thought was expected of me or what I thought somebody wanted to do. And my sign would always be some outside validation that I must be on the right track. But if I look back now, honestly, inside, if I had been listening more carefully, I would have been able to see that that wasn't the choice for me. That wasn't the relationship for me. That's not what love is for myself or for what I want with my children and my family and my future. But now I would say I am grateful, however, to tie this back into gratitude, because the thing about it is we are all becoming something. We are all unique. Our paths are all unique. And we're all going to have to master different skills and our own resilience in a different way. And the gift that comes from going through some of these things is the knowledge that you gain. And for me, the depth of empathy and compassion that I have, I would have never gained in any other way. Now, my ability as a coach to sit with people in difficult things would never be possible because it would make me uncomfortable. The level of
Mm.
things I'm comfortable feeling now, the highs and the lows, is stretched beyond anything I would have ever expected for myself. So I like to say I'd rather have had my heart broken open to humanity's pain than to be blind to someone's pain, than to be ignorant to how to help someone, to not know my role or how I can show up and contribute in the world. Because one person can make a difference, and that person could be your child, that person could be you as a mother. And this podcast is about valuing mother more because we are raising those individuals. And if we do a good job, we can help them do better than we did, than the generation before us, and set the next generation up for more success and more resilience.
I love that, Tiffany. You said a couple of things that really struck a few chords with me, like that whole being honest. Mm-hmm. We do have to be honest with ourselves. And I think you might be a little bit young to know this song, but there's a song, it was like a punk song from the 80s, maybe the late 70s. I'd sing it, but I got a terrible voice. But the lyrics are, I'm tired of waking up tired, waking up tired, too much time to kill. It's killing me. And at one point in my life, and I think it was actually even before my husband had passed, that like I was like hearing that in my head, because I was kind of tired with the way I was seeking and wanting success and wanting to shift. And I could feel that I was growing. I just didn't understand the direction I was being pulled in. So when we do get honest with ourselves, because you can't change what you don't acknowledge.
Yes.
Right. So you're just going to stay on your insanity train because you're not really acknowledging it. So you're going about it always in the same
Ignorance
way.
Is not bliss. It is not purity. It is not peaceful. That's something different. I think that's where people get mixed up, especially raising their kids. I want to keep them innocent and pure and good. Well, to be good, you have to know right from wrong, good from bad. So you know what you're choosing. So how are you going to learn that if you're not exposed to anything that makes you resilient? You're not given an opportunity to develop a voice. How does that work? Especially in a world today throwing so many messages around and changing what the truth is regularly.
Well, listen, I wanted to be able to raise resilient children, which I think was probably in the back of my parents' mind, that's what their intention was with my brother, my sister, and myself, to raise us to be resilient. I don't, yes, I think they, as I had said at the very beginning of this, they modeled it beautifully for us. But life will then, I am a certified coach, but I got to tell you something. Most of my certifications, I call it, I'm very life certified.
Yeah. Now that's something you can't quantify or teach.
Well, that's just it. I got the paper certification, and then I have the life certification, and it is the life certification that has really helped for me to tap into that resiliency. And again, it's one thing as a parent, but then I became a coach, and I didn't have a job. So I didn't have a plan B. Yeah. I only had this plan A, and I was not technical, and I didn't like computers. And what do you mean I need a website? And, all of these crazy things, right? And emails and social media. And, there's two words that start with R, resistance or resilience. Mm-hmm. It's where do you want it? Where do you want to be? And I know about resistance because, trust me, I've dug my heels in the sand many, many, many times. Yeah. And that is very counterproductive. So I would rather fall into resiliency.
That's exactly how I start the year out. We start the year out with resistance versus resilience. So I think that's the beginning of the journey, really. So I'm kind of curious, with everything you've been through, talking about mastering your unique resilience. Now, what is your resilient superpower? What are those things that help you turn around quickly now that you know yourself and you're honest with yourself and you've been through the trenches of it?
Well, I had a big transformation in the beginning of 2021. I had been meditating, and I came out of meditation, and God had said to me, "This is going to be your year to unlearn, Andrea." Unlearn. And I was like, yeah, okay, like whatever. Unlearn what? And he quickly showed me. And I was a very big player of the world and of New Age, New Age spirituality, New Age personal development, law of attraction. And that was everything he wanted me to unlearn. And he literally took me. I ended up giving my life to Christ and learning. And when we talk about hindsight, I could see I've always been a seeker, and I was always very curious as a very little girl. So New Age made a lot of sense to me, and I had a very big ignorance. And I think if we can be willing to accept the things about ourselves, I needed to say and admit, you know what? I've been very ignorant on many, many things in my life, and be okay with that and make peace with that part of myself. It allowed God to transform me from the inside. And I really believe that now my resiliency I can place somewhere else, and I don't always have to place it on myself.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And that ability to let go. The ability to let go, stop controlling, ask for help, accept a higher power. But also, I think you have to know what to let go of, and you have to know if you need to let go and give it over to him in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
Or if you have to give it over to the past, or you have to give it over instead of worry, hope. Like it's kind of that opposite thing.
Allow it to be transformed.
Yes.
Because if you let it go, it can then be transformed.
Yeah.
Right? Transformation is a beautiful thing, but we need to be willing to be transformed.
Yeah. If we don't let go, we just get dragged into the past or the future or the trauma or whatever. And it's like a child with that baby blanket or whatever it is.
A dog with the bone. It's like a dog with the bone.
Yeah. And you don't need that comfort. It's in here. And I think that's the transformation, is letting go of thinking it's something outside of yourself, or the solution is outside of yourself, and realizing you had the power inside of you all along. I think that's the real key to resilience, because then no matter what's going on in your life, you can create your own safety. You can love yourself. You're creating your life, and you're accepting what's in it and what's not in it, because you're aligned with yourself and your truth. And then the right people come in and the right opportunities come in. But when you're fighting it and you're not letting go of things, and things are black and white, it just often feels mucky, or it doesn't feel right if you're honest with yourself. But you have to slow down enough to be honest with yourself, because we do live in a fast-paced world where you're not even taking time to check in with your body or your thoughts or your feelings. You're just go, 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 go.
And they want to keep us distracted.
Yes.
Right? So the distractions and the running away from is going to keep you. It's like, I know how it felt, because I felt it for a long time, where I felt like I was like this hamster on this wheel.
Yeah.
I'm going round and round and round and round, and I'm not getting where I want to go. And you really have to jump ship.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable.
It is so uncomfortable. But if you're truthful, I mean, Tiffany, when I was really truthful with myself, change is not comfortable, but I couldn't stay where I was. That was really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And if we are honest, and we, it will manifest in physical illnesses.
Yeah.
And again, if we're honest with ourselves and we're not feeling well, why am I not feeling? Why am I getting these headaches all the time? Well, that battleground that's between your two ears, what is that narrative that you keep repeating and repeating?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to realize you're the creator of that. And sometimes you are at war with yourself, because maybe you're trying to be a version of yourself somebody else put on you, or that you think somebody else wants you to be, or what you think is going to be safe. I mean, we're always trying to come back to safety. I think that's a huge thing as well.
We're wearing that mask. It's that mask, because we're so wanting to be accepted and to please, and we compare ourselves. I mean, honestly, the list could go on and on and on. I think there could be a podcast just about, like, what kind of mask do you wear? And then there was that horrible expression that was going on in the personal development arena, the 90s and into the 2000s, about, well, just fake it till you make it.
Yeah, that's not resilience. That's not the resilience we're talking about here. Not to burnout.
No, it's not about faking
whatever it takes to make it happen. No. We're talking about a holistic resilience.
Exactly. Not forcing it. It's not about forcing it.
Yeah, if you're forcing it, it's not your truth. It shouldn't. It should flow. It should feel natural. It should spark a light in your eyes and show that you're
Exactly.
being filled.
And I think one other thing that I think might be important for the listeners to hear, but it's about allowing ourselves to sit with and process through whatever that really uncomfortable thought or feelings or experience that you've had.
Yeah.
Because when you process fully through it, you really do come out the other side.
And there's
you
a
really will
lot
feel
of
resilience.
tools for it as well. I think people get stuck if they don't get the result the first time.
Yeah.
With the first thing they tried. I tried meditation. It didn't work. I tried breathing. It didn't work.
Yeah.
I tried tapping. It didn't work. I went to
Right.
talk therapy. It didn't work. Okay. Someone who's been around all those trenches.
Right.
It took a while to find what worked and the right person to work with. And the work's still not done. But I finally found what works for me. I also know how it's going to affect me and the time it's going to take to recover from some of the intense work I still have to do. As I dug in more things, my brain protected me from things. And as I was processing stuff, things came up that I would not have been able to handle psychologically at the time with everything that was going on at the time.
Right.
And you don't know those things until you go digging. And so you can be feeling great and then doop, okay, we got this other one. You're safe now. You're in a good place now. You're resilient enough now. Guess what? We got something new to process here. So it's always a learning journey. But if you get curious about what the next version of you gets to be, or how much closer you're coming to your truth and who you're meant to be, the better, especially for your children, so they can see it, and your grandchildren and that future generation.
Exactly.
So maybe they can find that faster. Maybe they can find that sooner if we'll be a society that lets people be whole.
I really hope so. I really, really hope so. Because, if we pay attention too much to this world,
yeah,
it can take you out.
And the things of this world are temporary.
Yes.
But we can feel like they're not.
But that's just it, right? That's just it. So it depends on what lens you're looking through things and in which direction you're looking at. I feel that will determine, the level of resiliency on a scale of 0 to 10.
Yeah, and that comes back to your point on perspective. So
Absolutely.
It sounds like perspective, to kind of bring it all together: gratitude, letting go,
yes,
honesty, being willing to do the work and realize you have the power within you, and you have all along. It's the thing you're meant to discover along the way of who you're really capable of being, how strong you can actually be, what you can overcome. But it's your story. You're writing it. And it's okay that it's unique. It shouldn't look like anybody else's story. It's yours. And there's someone out there that's waiting for you, not someone else, for you to show up, or for your child to show up and who they are meant to be. And that's the beauty about us all being different, with different backgrounds, different shapes, sizes, skin color, different countries, different everything. The world would be so boring if there was only vanilla ice cream. Like, I love ice cream. I can't just have vanilla ice cream. Come on.
I know. But you know what? Honestly, that's a beautiful way of saying it, Tiffany. That's really a beautiful way. And I think if we share and have these conversations, and it just thrills me that there are so many different podcasts on with different topic matters, and that there's a hunger for it. There's a hunger out there. Yeah. So, yeah, this was fabulous.
My pleasure. I love these conversations, especially from someone who's wiser and older than me. I love to know someone who's been through the trenches, as I said earlier. So I feel like you have the wisdom I haven't gained quite yet, and it gives me a perspective that helps me be more resilient.
Well, trust me, you know what? You got a lot of wisdom in you. Definitely.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
you really
that.
Did. Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Where can people find you if they want to work with you?
Well, you can find me on the usual social media channels. So, on Facebook, it's under Andrea Julia Brunswick, and LinkedIn and Instagram is Andrea Brunswick. You can always email me at andreajuliabrunswick@gmail.com.
Wonderful. Well, listeners, thank you for being here in this month of mastering your unique resilience. I hope you found something today that serves you, that you can apply for your life, or you can get curious about starting that exploration for you and your resilient toolkit that'll help you to thrive. I believe in you. Believe in yourself. God bless. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Resilient Mother Podcast.